lot of that, and started writing, composing for the theater. So that's a big thing of what I do. I write musicals. I've written a show called Meet John Doe, some of you may know, and a bunch of other shows. I just had a show premiered in Tokyo in November, which was awesome, which was so cool. And I got to write it with Tom Jones. If you know Jones and Schmidt, they wrote like The Fantastics and 110 in the Shade. And so I just talked to Tom, actually. He's doing great. He's 93. He's out of his home in the woods in Connecticut, so he's totally safe. He's fine. But so that was a huge thrill. So I get to write, and I get to coach, and I get to teach. Also, I music direct quite a bit. I'm here in New York, by the way. Hi from New York. I play in Broadway pits sometimes. I conducted the Sweeney Todd, the off-Broadway Pie Shop revival, if anyone saw that went on a couple years ago. That was really fun. And I teach at Manhattan School of Music. This is only our fourth year, actually, of the program. So this is our first year with actual seniors. And they're not going to get a graduation, and we're all really bummed about that. But we'll do something for them, I'm sure. But so it's a very young program, but I was there at the beginning, putting it together, and we're having a great time. I teach music theory and sight singing, actually, a lot. We'll talk more about that later, but trying to give people skills where you can learn your music on your own. And if you get audition sides the night before and they want you to come in and sing 3 new songs that you've never heard, you can do it, because that's a big part of this industry, is getting music quickly, either for an audition or for even in a rehearsal process. You get like no time to rehearse things mostly. If any of you have done like summer stock or little regional things, I sometimes get 3 days to teach a score, like the whole score, the whole show, 3 days, and then you have to be choreographing. So that's a lot of what I do, but I also music direct the shows there. We just did Where's Charlie, which was a very fun show. I don't know if any of you know Where's Charlie. It's Frank Lesser's first show, Guys and Dolls, Frank Lesser. Very first show, very silly show. So we have fun. That's what I do up there, and I coach, and I've written a couple books. I have some other projects. Talk about that later. But today we're going to talk about, we're going to listen to some people sing, and I kind of want to know from you, first of all, is it Jessica or Juniper? I see Juniper here. Do you prefer Jessica?
Yeah, my coworkers know me as Jessica. My friends at school know me as Juniper.
Whatever you like. Whatever you like.
Juniper is great.
Fantastic. So when I work with you and the other person who was not here before, but hopefully she'll have joined us, let me know how you want to work, because I can talk about this in terms of working on it as if it were an audition for something, or we can talk about even like if you were doing it in your cabaret, or more as like a performance piece as opposed to an audition piece. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Juniper. I'm going to Brigham Young University out here in Utah.
Awesome.
I am part of the acting program, but I do a lot of musical theater as well.
Are there 2 different programs? Is there acting and a music theater?
Yeah,
or is it all the same
acting and a musical theater program. So
Fantastic.
their musical theater program has a lot of dance emphasis, and that's not my strong suit.
Understood. So. Yes.
Yeah. So for me, I'm kind of looking at this a little bit more of a cabaret performance kind of style, but I also am auditioning for Fiddler on the Roof in the coming months. So this is a Golden Age song, and kind of hopes that I could use that for that as well.
Great, that's perfect. Good. So what song are you going to sing?
If I Loved You from Carousel.
Wonderful. And so let's figure out logistics here. So you have a recording there, a track that you're going to sing with?
Yep.
Amazing. Let's see if you can, now where are you going to stand? Can you stand where I can see you more? Yeah, yes.
How's that? Is that better?
That's great. That's perfect. I'm wondering, Dane, are you there? I wonder if we can put her in the middle.
I am here. Do you want
Hey
me to?
there. Can we spotlight her so she's in the middle while she's singing? And maybe the whole time? That'd be great. Then we can all see her.
Did that work on your end?
Sure did.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let me see here. I want to get rid of the people across the top. There we go. That's a little better. Great. All right. Yeah, and then back up as much as you can so we can get you. Yeah, so press play and then run back to where you're gonna go.
All right. I think it's fine. Okay. Thanks.
Great, great, beautiful. Yes, it's a little hard to hear, but I could hear you very well. The accompaniment sort of goes in and out, but yeah, that's okay. Terrific. Beautiful voice. Yeah. Let's see. Why don't we? I'm trying to think. I'm just going to go back to normal view here. I'm just going back to normal view. Well, no, maybe we'll go back to speaker view. Actually, let me just see. Sorry, I'm working on little things on my own here. Can I pin? No. I'm trying to find a way where I can just look at you and not have it be jumping all over the place, but maybe not. Actually, Dane, why don't we keep Juniper pinned? Let's do that. Yeah. In the spotlight, where you should be. Exactly. Okay. Great. So I think it sounds absolutely beautiful. You have a lovely voice. Tell me about where you are.
Um, I am imagining that I am with this person. It's kind of later at night, maybe outside on a walk.
Uh-huh.
On a walk, yes. Casually talking, joking around, turning into, I don't, I mean, if I loved you, right?
Yeah. Well, see, I love that take. I love that. It feels very contemporary and it feels very you.
Yeah,
I didn't get that so much in the song.
yeah,
And right? So I love this kind of like, well, if I loved you, yeah, sure, I'd do this and that'd be ridiculous. But yeah, no, but I don't. I mean, God, please.
right,
Right?
right.
That's what the song's about. And it's easy to fall into how pretty it is.
Yeah. Hmm.
Right? And how soprano-y it is. Right? We need to get rid of all that. I'm going to have you actually sing it without the track, I think.
Okay,
Track
great.
is so slow. It's super
So,
slow. It sounds like he's dead or something. So
all
that's not that's we don't need that with the track anymore. I think it's gonna be better.
right, great.
Great. So when I talk about preparing a song, I talk about 5 questions that need to be answered. And if you can answer these questions, you can do anything you want within the song. And your video is frozen, so I'm
Okay.
hoping you're okay. Are you still with us?
Okay.
I don't want to talk and you not hear me. Let's see.
Yes, I am. Sorry, it's a little
There we
delayed.
are.
I'm moving. I am moving my
Great. And we have a nice helpful,
but it was perfect.
we have a helpful hint over in the chat to, and I know that there are some of these settings that I haven't played around with yet. Suppress persistent background noise. Let's see. So in audio settings, where would audio settings be? Daniel, can you tell us where audio settings is? Oh, sorry, it's a private chat. That's why no one else is seeing it. He was telling me about some audio settings.
So Andrew, down
Yeah.
at the bottom left of the screen, you're going to
Yep.
see a microphone that says mute. If you click
I
the little
found
arrow to the
it.
right,
Audio settings.
audio
Yes.
settings is at the
Arrow
bottom.
next to mute. And what do we want to do here? We want to advanced, and we want to suppress the persistent background noise. We want to turn that off. We want to turn off the one underneath it. And I think we want to get rid of the echo cancellation too. I think I heard about that being not so good. Oh, but it's on auto as opposed to aggressive, so I guess that's fine. Let's see if that does anything. Let's see if everyone can try that. Maybe it'll work. I know there's also a setting called original sound, which I do have on. You may have to do that in your when you log on to Zoom through their website. That's where all your settings are, and you can enable original sound. If you have that, I would do that also. Let's see if that worked. Thank you, Daniel. That's helpful. All right, so I was talking about the 5 questions, and these are the 5 questions that I sort of live by. My whole philosophy of prepping a song and then performing a song is very much about freeing you to be able to make your own choices, not only as you prep the song, but in the performing of it. I very much like the idea that it's never the same thing twice. For those of you still in school or fresh out of school, it can be tough. And I deal with this with a lot of my students because school is such a, like, learn the right answer and then give the right answer when you're called upon and then you get the good grade, right? That's so bad for performing. It's like, because you end up sort of trying to hit this same mark, either your own mark or the same mark that everyone else is hitting, which is even worse. One of the books I wrote, and well, here, do I have it? The Enraged Accompanist's Guide to the Perfect Audition. It's one of my books. I wrote it a while back because I was playing so many auditions, and it was interesting because I tell people who aren't in the business, I'm like, oh, I play a lot of auditions, and they're like, oh my God, you must see like some nightmares and some scary, awful, ridiculous people, because they're like thinking of American Idol reject reels, like those people who just have no business. But I'm like, no, the whole point of why I wanted to write this book is that at a professional audition, people are good. People just, they know their stuff. They don't come in and like act ridiculously. They are good singers and they have an idea of what they're singing, but they're all aiming for the same mark, or most of them are. They have this idea that there's a right way that the song is supposed to go, and they're all aiming for it and they all hit it, so that most people sound exactly the same at auditions. And what I wanted to do was give people ways to be yourself, to really showcase who you are and what makes you interesting, because that, from a casting point of view, that's what's really valuable. That's what we want to see. We want someone unique. We want someone with a lot of personality that's going to surprise us, that may surprise themselves. You know, that's the kind of performer. Think about the performers that you like to watch in a show. They're the ones that you can't keep your eyes off them because you're like, I don't know what is going to happen next. Like, not in a crazy way, not in like a wacko diva way, but just like, this is a real person who looks like they don't know what's happening next, because they don't, right? We don't. In real life, we don't know what's happening next. A lot of what acting is sort of tricking yourself more than tricking the audience. We think it's like tricking the audience into believing that you're someone. It's tricking yourself into not knowing what's happening next. Tricking yourself into not knowing the next word that's going to come out of your mouth, not knowing what your scene partner is going to do or say, and being worried about what your scene partner is going to do or say. And especially when you're singing a song by yourself in something like this, in a cabaret or an audition, it's so helpful to have an imagined scene partner who you don't know what they're going to do. or what they're going to say, but you have some concerns, right? They may do something that you don't want them to do. That makes the song interesting because it makes you want something from them. So these 5 questions that I give you allow you to have a very solid foundation of the situation, both inside your head and outside your head. And if you are really grounded in that, then you can allow yourself to make whatever choices feel right in the moment. And I know this is something that I'm sure all of you have encountered in your training. The performers who clearly have rehearsed a song a certain way and decided that this is the best way to do it. And now every time I do it, I'm trying to do it that way because that was the best way. That's what we want to get away from, because that is the kind of performance that you've seen the bad music theater, right? Where they lift their hand in the same place and they turn their head in the same word. A lot of times in auditions, a director will ask you to make an adjustment. They're like, hey, that was great. Here, try it this way. Sometimes the adjustment is ridiculous, right? And the director knows it's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the song. It's just to see whether the actor can do something different, or whether they're the kind of actor who has rehearsed it one way and they're always going to do it that way, right? We want someone who is spontaneous. So all that is to say, let's talk about these questions. So the first one that I just asked you, where are you? So physical reality. Let's get really specific with it, though. So you're walking outside. Yeah, where?
I was picturing there's this like cool little alleyway that has some overgrown trees where I live. That's kind of what I was picturing.
Great, fantastic. That's great. And what time is it?
Probably like 8:30 p.m.
Cool, great. So early night.
Yeah.
What time of year is it?
Summer.
Summer, nice. Okay, so maybe it isn't even dark yet entirely.
Yeah, like twilight, like
Yeah,
summer.
yeah. That's great. And what's the weather like?
Like warm, but not too warm.
Okay.
Cooling off. Yeah.
Very nice. What does it smell like?
Flowers. There's some really pretty flowers on the trees that are over
That's
here.
great. That's great. I want to do a video shoot here. This sounds perfect. What can you hear anything?
There's some, I mean, it's close to some streets, so there's some cars passing by. Occasionally you'll hear a bike go by, as well as the birds. There are some birds and.
Great, perfect. All right, so who are you talking to? Let's get down to it. Who are you talking to?
I am talking to a boy that is my best friend, but he's not into me.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because he is dating someone.
But those two don't necessarily go together.
I know.
So you're assuming, or you're sure that he's not into you?
I'm assuming and pretty sure.
Okay, all right. So that changes sort of like, what do you want from this song then? So who you're talking to is very important. So we have, where are you? Who are you talking to? Let's skip one for now. Let's go to, so what do you want? What do you want from him at the end of the song? Why bother to sing this song if you think that he's not interested?
I think I want him to believe that I'm not interested, even though I am.
Okay, tell me more.
I think I in this situation I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, this is never gonna work out. But we've started talking about things, and he's joked like, oh, whatever, you love me, and I'm like, no, because if I loved you, then like I would be trying to tell you, and I haven't done that, and I want him to believe that I don't, because I haven't done these things.
What? So good. Let's go back one question, then we'll get to the final question. So, really important question. So, what just happened? What just happened? Why are you having to like make this whole thing up like right now?
I
So I
so
think you alluded to it, that he said something like, "Oh, you come on, you love me. You know you love me."
right, exactly. So in my head, we're just kind of walking and talking, kind of joking around, and he says something like that like, or I pretend hurts my feelings. You know how we do that. We're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that.
Right. Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, excuse you, and
Right.
and he's like, oh, whatever, you love me, and I like have just, I mean, we've been walking for an hour or so, and I've just been sitting here going, oh, I really like him the entire time, and and I'm just like, no, I don't love you. Like, I take it way more seriously than he means it because I'm so
Uh-huh.
anxious about it.
Right. Okay. That's fun. So now the last question, and this is a really important one. This is one that gets to the heart of something that we all talk about. What's going to happen if you don't get what you want? If he doesn't believe you, what's going to happen?
Well, then he'll know that I like him.
Hmm.
That
Why would that be a bad thing?
because it would influence our relationship. It could make things awkward. I could lose his friendship. I don't know. I don't know if he's okay with being friends with someone who likes him. Like, I
Hmm.
like I could lose my best friend, which would suck, and I don't want to do that.
Great. Great. So the answer to this question is all about stakes. Whenever someone says, "Oh, you got to raise the stakes, you got to be more urgent," all those kind of words, it's usually because you haven't made the answer to this question bad enough. And I think that's a good answer. Yeah, what's going to happen if you don't get what you want? I'm going to lose my best friend. Like, that's really bad. That's a really bad situation.
Yeah.
Let's sing it again. And again, you don't need the track unless you really want it, but it's I think all those soupy violins are not helping us here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we try it again and just play around, but I want you to really be thinking about, first of all, what just happened. He just said, come on, you love me, you know you love me.
Right. Yeah.
And, oh my God, if I don't convince him that that's not true, then this whole thing is going to go up in smoke and then I'll lose my best friend.
Okay.
Great.
If I loved you, time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go, longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the midst of day. Never, never to know how I loved you. If I loved you.
That's great. That is a great adjustment.
Yeah,
Everyone, you see how much more a real person that is?
yeah,
This is
yeah.
someone I haven't seen before, and this is someone I want to get to know. Yeah, this is someone with a sense of humor. This is
Great.
someone who feels like a real human being. So I love that. I love that. Let's look at a few little specific beats because I think that's on a great way to it. And it also, you know what it pointed out to me, there's a big shift kind of in the middle of the song. Because you talk
Yeah,
about soon you'd leave me. I'm like, what is all that about? All of a sudden, you like painted this whole like 3-act play all of a sudden, and
right.
no, it doesn't happen at all, right? You're already like mourning his leaving
Yeah.
and all that, which is great, which is such a great reveal. Because then it really is, you can be as convincing as you want in the first half of the song, where I don't love you, and then but you're thinking about how he'd leave you, and it's like clearly you do, right? It's really the contrast is really fun then. Let's just take a look at the word love,
Mm,
right? He just said that word to you.
right,
That the whole concept was his fault.
right.
Yeah. So let's throw it back in his face at the beginning a little bit. If
Okay,
I loved you,
I love
please.
that.
Yeah. Just start again.
Okay.
Think about exactly, sorry, think about exactly the sentence that he just said to you
Okay, all right.
and then respond to it.
If I loved you, time and again I would try to say all I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go.
Great. I love this. It's so contemporary. It really makes me happy. The words wouldn't come in an easy way. And look, I'm talking just fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like words wouldn't come in an easy way. Do you hear me? I'm fine, right? Not a problem here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. Let's keep going. Longing to tell you.
Okay. Longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by.
Good. So I think that might be the place where it starts to crack.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's getting a little too real. The train has left the station. I love the experience of an actor who clearly the words are just like leaving their mouth. You're like, oh, no, come back. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. Just completely out of control when the things are coming out of your mouth. You're like, oh, I'm going someplace. I'm going to reveal something and I can't help it. Yeah. So let's find that place where that shift happens. Round in circles, I go longing to tell. Let's go back to words wouldn't come in an easy way.
Okay. Words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go. Longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the midst of day. Never, never to know how I love you. If I loved you.
Great. I think that was a great experiment. There's always a question about especially if you're putting together a really layered performance, which I love, right? You're saying something else going on down here.
Right.
There's always the question about how good is your character at hiding what's going on down here.
Terrible.
For me, I would actually go the opposite way. I would think that maybe she's a little bit better at hiding it, just because we out here, we get it.
Right.
Like the slightest little look in your eye, and we're like, oh, she doesn't believe that at all. Right. You don't have to tell us so much.
Okay. Yeah.
Fight a little harder.
Okay. Yeah.
So remember what's going to happen if he doesn't believe you.
Right.
Right. So work a little harder to cover it up. It'll still be there. We'll still get it.
Okay.
Yeah. Words wouldn't come back to the same place.
Words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go. Longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the mist of day. Never, never to know how I love you. If I loved you.
Great. So this is where the real fine-tuning happens, and that's not going to happen today. So if the previous one was like a 30% on being able to cover it up,
Yeah.
this was like a 95% on being able to cover it up. So somewhere around maybe 75 or 80.
Okay,
And if there's a place or two that are options for you to let it crack through, just sort of know. This is the thing I talked about before, not rehearsing something to death and like choosing, oh, this is the place where I take a step forward, right? 'Cause that always looks phony. But that's not to say that when you're rehearsing something, you don't identify places that feel right. Right. So if you're running through something and you feel that you'd like to take a step forward here, that's great. Do it. And remember, that's an option. That's a place where I could possibly take a step forward if I feel like it in the moment.
Yeah.
right? So not to say that there's a specific word where you have to say, oh, this is where I'm going to let it show. This is a place where I could let it show just for a second, let it get away from you, lose control just for a second, and then bring it back.
Yeah.
This is great. I want to move on in just a second. See if you can try it with the track again.
Okay.
What happens when we take this at like half tempo? I think this track is too slow, but if you do have to use it for an audition at some point, let's see if we can keep sort of the looseness, the contemporariness of it, even with the adagio strings happening.
Great. Okay.
Good, 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 good. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that's difficult about this, with this track,
I need to find a
is
different
how it
track.
affects your physicality.
Yeah.
Really tough to keep this sort of like easy girl, like walking down the street kind of thing when it's like this is someone in a rowboat or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something, check in on your physicality and see what you can do about that in
Okay.
terms of using this track.
Right.
I think your hands in your pocket was a great choice. Once that happened, I was like, oh yes, okay, this is someone. You have a tendency to do a little bit of hand wringing. That
Yep.
happened the first time through, I noticed. Yeah. Do some work in a larger space, I would think, if you can, or even go outside or something. Just figure out how does she walk? How does she move? Even when she's walking slowly,
Mm,
how does she walk slowly?
okay, yeah.
Or has she stopped somewhere? Are they standing at a railing or something? Are they sitting on the bench? Haha.
Right.
Something like that. How would she be on a bench? Would she be like, ha, please? Like she'd use all
Yeah.
her, right? She'd be casual like that. Um, Figure out how that would work, because that's a tricky thing when the
Right.
music is telling you something different.
Right.
Do you have any questions or anything like I talked about, or?
I loved everything you said. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and you can always have questions later. But yeah,
Great.
that's just a sense of what I like, and it just gives you your own stamp,
Yeah.
and it gives you
Well, I
permission to do something different every time.
And okay, here's a question for you.
Yeah,
So auditioning for a golden age musical, typically they have a, it's a time period piece. So there's a physicality to it and things like that. So if I came in and did something like this where it was more contemporary, like would they, would someone who was casting a show like that, would that be like not great in their opinion? You know what I mean?
yeah. I don't really see anything that you did that wasn't period, other than perhaps she wouldn't have pockets.
Got it.
Right? That's the only thing I would think of.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people back then were just people. Right? We're not talking about like sitting like with your legs open or whatever, or like doing
Right.
that ridiculous stuff. No, you're standing there acting like a human being. That's the way they acted. I think there's this museum sense that comes into what we think of as a period demeanor.
Yeah.
I don't think that's very interesting. It doesn't feel like a human being to me. I don't think it's in keeping with the contemporary trends in how we direct musicals.
Yeah.
I always want an actual human being.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, obviously don't do things that would be grotesque, but I don't think you would do that in this song. I can't imagine what that would be in this song, although I would probably pay some money to see it, but that's a different story. Great. Good. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Do we have our second person here? Dane?
Sorry, I'm unmuting myself here.
Hello.
I've asked a couple times in the chat if Alyssa is here, and I haven't heard back. Is Alyssa here?
Let's see.
I'm not seeing anybody raise their hands.
Okay.
All right, so I will leave this up to you. If you want to field questions or if you want to work with somebody else for a minute, we can see if there's a volunteer for that.
Yeah, well, if anyone else wants to sing something real quick, I would love to hear that. You can just raise your hand in the little side panel if you happen to have a track ready to go. I know that you may not. Otherwise, I can just sort of talk for a minute more.
Wait a minute, are you saying singers
I
aren't prepared to sing at any second?
It's always good. It's always good. I have to say, whenever I go to a party, and I'm assuming there will be a day in the future when I'll get to go to parties again, I always have to practice something before I leave the house. I'm not the kind of like writer that can just play any song that I've ever written. I have to literally go back and learn them again because I forget them as soon as I write them. So if I go to a party, if I know that there's going to be a piano and people might possibly say, "Oh, come on, play one of your songs," I have to practice. I have to just prepare something because that's just who I am. So it is always good to have something ready to go as performers that people always want to be like, oh, sing something for your Uncle Joe or whatever. Yeah. Have something to go. Just have something to go. Treat it as an opportunity to practice your performing. Treat it like a
I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand on the chat
okay.
thing. I'm scrolling through videos to see if anybody's raising their hand physically here.
That's fine. We can continue. I continue to just talk ad nauseum. That's fine with me. We can talk a little bit about auditions. So one of my books that I talked about, that Enraged Accompanist's Guide, I go through a lot of technical things like how to put your book together and stuff like that people always ask. But what I think is probably most important and helpful actually is more of a mindset about what auditioning really is. So let me talk about that for a second, because you're going to be spending way more of your lives auditioning than you will be actually in shows, honestly, unless you just happen to go from show to show to show, which would be amazing, and I wish that for everyone. But you're probably going to be doing a lot of auditioning. And it's easy to let that be super stressful and to sort of misinterpret the dynamic in an audition room. I talk about the table people, I call them, the people that sit there behind the table with the headshots and the coffees and the sandwiches, and they sit there and they stare at you. They are actually really under a lot of pressure. Like, you feel nervous when you go into an audition, and yeah, and that's normal because you want the job, hopefully. But if you don't get it, okay, you're disappointed, but then you have another audition, hopefully in the next day or two, so you go on to the next audition. If they don't find the cast that they need, it's really, really a problem, right? Because they have a lot of money tied up in this show. The musical often is the big moneymaker for the season. If they don't have a great production, if they don't have like a romantic interests that have great chemistry with each other, if they don't have people who can sing it great, who can dance it great, they're going to have a bad production and they're going to lose a lot of money, right? They're under a lot of pressure and they want you to be great. So they're totally on your side. Every person that walks in the door, we're always like, oh, please be the one. Please be the one to solve our problem. They may not show it. For those of you who have auditioned professionally a bit, you know that there's a big variety of demeanors from across the table. There are the people who don't even look at you. They're the people who don't talk to you. They're the people who are super friendly, and it's a great experience. Don't read anything into that. They really, really want you to be great. So if you remember that, first of all, you will be a little less crazy. The other thing is that an audition is really not entirely about how good you are. We think an audition is sort of like this referendum on your talent. Like, if they don't call me back, that I'm bad, or they think I'm bad or something. Oftentimes it's not that at all. Best case scenario, and this happens all the time, I don't call someone back because they already have the role. Like, their first audition was fantastic. I don't need to see anymore. You're awesome. You have the role. So that could be a possibility of why you don't get a call back. We don't have a lot of time to waste. Audition spaces are expensive unless you actually have a theater and you can actually audition in your theater and you're not paying for it. Like in New York, audition rooms are really expensive. Like, a day of auditions is hundreds and hundreds of dollars to rent the room, to rent the accompanist, to pay for the reader, to have the casting agent or the casting agent's assistant to be organizing the headshots and bringing people in and out of the room. It's a lot of money. So if we can save time, we're all about saving time. Second of all, if you don't get a callback, it could just mean that you're just not right for the show. Not that you're bad, it's just that you're not right. I talk about thinking about an audition experience like a business transaction, because that's really what it is. It's just strictly business, right? They're in the market for goods, right? The goods are cast, right? They need cast. They need these goods. You have some goods. Here are my goods. This is what I have to show you today. And if they don't call you back, it just means, yeah, not exactly what we were looking for. Your job is to make it easy for them to see you in their production. And that sort of goes back to Juniper's question about, acting period in your audition and showing that you can be period. Mostly that has to do with actually dressed, I would say. Really. Not that you should literally dress like you're in the show, but just something like it, right? If you're auditioning for Julie, wear a skirt. That's all. Don't come in with ripped jeans and sneakers. That makes it hard for us to see you in the role. That's all. And if you think about it like this.
It looks like we've got a question.
Awesome, yes. We have somebody who wants to sing too.
Yeah, it looks like Cassie was wondering, what are the biggest vocal challenges for incoming freshmen from a teaching standpoint?
I see. Great. Let me get to that in just a second. Let me also look at Elizabeth's question about competitions. It's true. It's a good point. This competition, when I judge a competition, it's slightly different because I'm not thinking, can I see this person in this particular show? For competitions, it's more about what we were working on with Juniper, which is finding your specific vibe, your juice, right? Who you are. My question in competitions is, do I want to see this person do 5 different roles? Oh yeah, I'd love to see her do Babe in Pajama Game. I wondered what she'd do with that. I wonder what she'd do with Dot in Sunday in the Park. Those are the questions that make me excited about someone in a competition. So it's sort of the opposite. Like, can I see you in a big variety of things? And that's really about the personality that you bring and the specificity that you bring to whatever you're singing. So I hope that answers your question, Elizabeth. We have someone who wants to sing. So very quickly, so for the first person who wanted to sing, I think was Kiana, if I'm saying that right. Let's try that.
Yes.
Let's try that. Are you ready to go with your track and everything?
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
Awesome. Can we give her a video? Do you have your video on? Hi there. Gotcha.
Hi.
Awesome. What are you going to sing for us?
I'm going to sing Someone Like You from Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay, great. I may cut you off just in the middle just because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome.
I peer through the window, watch life go by, dream of tomorrow, and wonder why the past is holding me, keeping life at bay. I wander lost in yesterday, wanting to fly, scared to try. If someone like me, then suddenly nothing will ever be the same. My heart will take me, and I feel some life. If someone like you found me.
Great. Let's just work on that much. That's a beautiful cut. great. Yeah, I love the quality, the dusky mezzo. It's a beautiful quality now. It's really lovely. Just quickly, one little vocal thing. It's a tricky song because it starts so low, and then you have to get up into that place near the end. Um, be aware of where you're going.
Okay.
Right? If you want to start in that lovely chesty way, that's great. Somewhere in the middle, you're going to have to switch over just a little bit. I felt like you didn't quite get the pingy narrowness that would have
Okay.
made that higher. Just those few little notes there. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Just make sure that you have some little part of your mind going like, all right, now is where I need to either tip it forward or however your teacher talks about getting into that slightly more forward, smaller place so you can get up there a little easier.
Okay.
It also these sort of 80s, 90s kind of anthem-y type songs. Um, it's always nice when I can see a character with doubt,
Okay.
little like questions and doubt. It's always a nice place to start a song. This was so confidently delivered, and you love living down there in that part of your voice, and I love that. But it felt like sort of everything was solved right from the beginning. It made me ask the question, what do you want? And what's going to happen if you don't get it?
Okay.
So what do you want from this person?
Well, I want to prove to them that if they had me, no one can be like me.
Great. So a good way to think about this, the answer to this question, what do I want from this person? Try to answer it with something physical that that person can do to show you that you've succeeded. It's
Okay.
easy to answer questions like that. I like your question. I like your answer. Some people would have answered it like, I want him to love me. Like, I don't know what that is, right? I don't know. How do I know if he loves me? Like, what is that, right? I
So
want him
more like
to,
acceptance, maybe?
yeah, but again, make it some sort of physical thing. Like, I want him to take my hand. I want him to take me in his arms. I want him to give me a plane ticket with him to Aruba or whatever, right? Find something that is physical that you can actually concentrate your energies toward. Because it's very difficult when you have something abstract. It just gets a little vague.
Okay.
That's all. And again, we're not going to know exactly what you're trying to get him to do, but we'll know that you have something specific in mind.
Okay.
And what's going to happen if he doesn't?
Good question. Well, most likely I'm gonna feel disappointed because I feel like I've conveyed a case like, oh, I will do this for you and everything, and if I'm rejected, then I might feel let down.
Great. So disappointed is a good start, but remember, we want to make this as bad as possible,
Okay.
right? So disappointed is like, oh, that's too bad. I wish you liked me. As bad as possible. What would worst case scenario be?
I mean, it could make the moment very awkward, and I might not be able to see the person how I did before when I was just so eager about them. But once I found out, like, oh, you don't feel the same way, then it's like that awkward moment. Oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna move on past it.
Let's make it more than an awkward moment that you can just move past. That's what I'm talking about. So let's make it, you've planned the wedding, right? Like, let's go that far. Let's make it a little crazy, you know? Let's make it, you know, I'm going to be so devastated that I may never have the courage to love again.
Okay.
That bad. Make it very, then you'll be singing the song with a much greater urgency.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And again, well, you would play with it more. Try different scenarios. That's the other thing. Like, try that you've known him a long time. Try that you haven't known him long at all, and you just have this super crazy crush on him. Just that's what part of the rehearsing and practicing process is. Try different scenarios. The one that gives you the most juice is the best one. The one that if you need it the most is the best one.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. I'm gonna close things out now, but thank you for raising your hand. Beautiful.
Oh yeah. that I'm going to be attending Manhattan School of Music for musical theater in the fall. So
You are?
yes, so I'm
That's
extremely
fantastic. That's great. I'll see you in theory class.
see you there.
Woo! That's great. Great to meet you.
You too.
Good. So that was a great example of both answering that question, that stakes question, like what's going to happen if I don't get it, making it as bad as possible so that, no, I'm not going to get over this really quickly. Remember, when we write songs for moments in a show, it's because we think they're a really important moment. We're not going to write a song for something that's sort of casual, right? Even if it's a comedy song, it's going to be a big moment in the show. So try to make your scenario as important as possible, because likely that's the way we wrote it. Yeah. A question I get a lot, can I interpret it in a totally different way from the way it is in the show? Absolutely. You do not have to do a song like it's being done in the show, with the exception if they've asked you to sing from the show that you're auditioning for. Yeah, it should be pretty much like the show is usually done. Don't do something completely nuts. But a great way to make a song your own is to find a new version of it, to find either a new scenario, something that's very personal for you, or you can even do things like take a fast song, make it a ballad, take a ballad, do it as an up-tempo, as long as it makes sense with the lyric, as long as it's not like something crazy that you're like, I don't understand. Why are you singing this like a boppy 2 and it's a sad song? I don't understand what that is. Please make material your own and do not feel like you have to do it the way it is in the show. Let me answer Cassie's question really quickly. The biggest vocal challenges for incoming freshmen. It really depends. I think people are at so many varied levels when they come in, both just in the physical development of the voice. Like everyone's voices develop at a different rate, especially through your teens and late teens and early 20s. Certainly men versus women, big difference. So I think it depends on where you are personally. I think in general, a lot of what the first year of an acting program is about, and this is both vocal training and acting training, is sort of returning to neutral. So just finding your neutral, finding your baseline relaxation, getting rid of any physical tics, habits that we all have. We all have them. We stand a little weird. We play with our hands. We hold our skirt. We do, all that kind of stuff. Finding our neutral. I think that's a general way of sort of summing up of what a lot of training is in the first year. Identifying where you're tense, where you have things, because remember, your entire body is your instrument. Your entire body is telling story. And that's another good thing to remember. Even in an audition situation, a lot of people go to auditions and then for some reason they act like they're in a pin spot and they're not allowed to move, and they have an entire room. Use the room, use the space, unless there's some specific reason why in an audition they've said, please stand on the X because we're filming you or something like that. Mostly you don't get that. Mostly you're in an audition room. Use the room. Absolutely. Look around you. If there's a curtain, use the curtain if it is something fun that you could do with for your song. Use the piano. Show us that you can tell story with your body. And so part of training in the freshman year is, again, returning you to neutral so your body isn't telling a story that you don't mean to be telling. That's what that's about. And vocally, yeah, relaxation, growing your range, negotiating different registers, all that stuff. Depends. We talked about competitions. Joanna, I'm sorry we didn't get you to sing. Not quite. Yes, my name actually, thank you, Mary. It's Gerle, actually. Gerle. It looks like girl, but it's actually Gerle. How do we decipher what opportunities are too low level for us and too high level? I wouldn't necessarily distinguish between those. If you're first starting out, like when I was first in the city as a music director, I just said yes to everything. Everything. Absolutely every job that came my way. Because I met people, I can trace almost every job that I have ever had including playing for the biggest Broadway names out there, back to like the first 3 jobs that I took in the city. Literally, I can go back and do the 6 degrees of separation, and oh yeah, that led to that, and then I met her, and then she recommended me to so-and-so, and she just happened to need someone to play for Betty Buckley. I'm like, oh, I'm in the room with Betty Buckley now, playing for you. Say yes. Say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes. Always. Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, there was a question earlier from Terry. She said,
Yes.
I would like to know good ways to determine playable age and choose appropriate repertoire.
Great. I mean, again, I think we all have an idea when we look in the mirror, like who we could reasonably be expected to pass off as an age level. If you're not sure, ask your teacher, ask your coach, ask friends. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, unless you're clearly 20 and the role is clearly 60, go in for stuff, right? Don't let them say that you're not right for it. Because, and here's the other thing that's important, you're never just auditioning for one thing. If you're in the room auditioning for a production of The Pajama Game, every person at the table, every person in that room is casting 4 things, I guarantee you. They have 3 other things down the line. They're saving resumes that they like and putting them in their little file. The accompanist is a composer. I do this all the time when I'm playing auditions. I take someone's headshot and resume because I'm doing a demo recording in the next 3 weeks, and you're perfect, and I want to get in touch with you. So go out for stuff. I mean, don't waste people's time. If you're clearly wrong for something, if it's absolutely you're just nowhere near the right age, or vocally you have no business singing this role, and you should be able to tell that. Go in. I wouldn't rule yourself out so much. Yeah.
Okay, it also looks like we have our first raised hand here.
Oh, fantastic. I'm not going to try to say that, but I'm going to call on you.
Yeah.
Arezuta. Hi.
Hi. I have a question in terms of like acting values. A lot of times I've been told to like find the comedy in like find the lighthearted moments and find like the comedy within a song. And how do you find that when you're so focused on how do I say this? When you're so focused on like if I don't get what I want, like when the stakes are so high, how do you
Absolutely. Totally great question. Yeah, there is a way of, so if you go really deep into these questions, you can be concentrating on like, oh my God, if I don't get him to love me, it's going to be the worst thing in the world, right? We don't want any of that, right? That's happening in the background, simply to make it really urgent that you get what you want. And if you want him to love you, you don't want to show all this negative stuff, right? How am I trying to get him to do what I want? So it has to do with tactics. Right? If showing how miserable you're going to be if he doesn't love you isn't going to get him to love you, and it probably won't because that's a drag. I don't want to be someone like crying, be like, you have to love me. That's not going to get what you want, right? So then you wouldn't do that. It's merely a way of lifting the stakes of the situation. Be like, all right, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him today. If I don't, I don't even want to think about it. It's in the background. I'm not even going to think about it because it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm going to find the humor, I think, is a great way because that's a great tactic to get someone to do what you want.
So it's like conscious versus subconscious.
Exactly. Yes. You have to know in the background why this is important. But the stuff that's happening up here is all about how do I get him? How do I get him to do what I want? How do I make him laugh? Because if he laughs, then he'll like me. And that's where that comes in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, any other questions over here? How strict are the limitations of needing to stick to 16 or 32 bar cuts? That's a great question. Again, it's mostly about time and not wasting people's time. Auditions are always running late. We will always be running late. So there will always be that energy in the room. Don't take that energy on. There's a tendency for actors to like take on the energy of the room if clearly people are like, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's not your job, right? Your job is to have your moment. Don't waste our time. Be professional, be efficient, have your music laid out in a nice way so that you know that the accompanist is going to be able to read it really nicely, very easily, know how to set your tempo very professionally, practice that with a pianist. But again, 16 to 32 bar cuts is about, we don't have a lot of time and rehearsal studios are expensive. A 16 bar cut generally means pretty quick, right? Get in and out pretty quickly. 32 means, okay, you got like a minute. You can do like an entire 32 bar standard song or the equivalent. But don't be too concerned about the actual bar count, because you could have a song that is adagio in 12/8 and 32 bars is like 4 minutes. Don't do that. Don't waste our time. We can tell, especially on a first round. And for these cuts, that's generally what it's going to be. It's going to be your first audition is going to be with a 16 or 32 bar cut. Just give them a taste. We get it. We can hear immediately if you have what we need, right? Then make them want more, right? Have them call you back, and then you can do your whole song. So just be sensible. 16 bar cut, pretty quick. 32, you got a little time, but don't abuse it. The flip side is if you're doing a cut time song, 16 bars could go by in 5 seconds, right? That's okay. You can do the 32 bar if it's a really fast cut time song, and it just goes by very quickly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do not snap at your accompanists. Yeah, there are better ways of showing tempo. Just sing your first bar. Unless the first bar of your part is a whole note, that doesn't tell me anything, right? You can sing the piano accompaniment. That's great. If that's clearer, bum bum ba bum bum ba 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 ba. That's totally fine. Also, do not give me a metronome marking. I'm not a metronome. So don't say, oh, it's quarter equals 95. I don't know what that is. I mean, I can guess, but why not just sing it? Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah,
Really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Let me just give a plug. If you are looking for things to do, if you are at home and looking for things to do, I have things for you to do on my website, and you can take a look at them. I have little things. So yes, my book is The Enraged Accompanist's Guide. You can get that online. It has a lot of stuff like this, but also stuff like how do you mark your score, and do we like sleeves and page turns, and how big should my binder be? Spoiler, not this big. What else do I have? If you're looking to work on your theory, on your music reading, this is my book, Music Essentials for Singers and Actors. It just came out last year. So this is just the second year that we're using it in class. And it comes with audio examples. Like you have all like hundreds of MP3s. And all the examples are from Broadway scores, which is nice. So you can actually learn not just how to read, but how being a better musician makes you a better actor, like treasure hunts, going into the music and saying, oh, look what he did there. I can use that as an actor. And the last and the silliest thing I'm going to tell you about is my latest project. It is called The Periodic Table of Broadway Musicals. And it is a poster. It has 118 musicals on it. It's all illustrated. Here's a Brigadoon. One of my favorites. Happy birthday, Mr. Sondheim. We have a bleeding pie. So it's a big poster. You can also buy these prints. It's full of information. It has like when the show opened and did it win the Tony and did they make a movie. So it's a great time waster if you're stuck inside. And I will put that over here on the side.
Oh, good. I was going to send it out as a link to everybody who.
That'd be great too. So we can do that also. I sent that to you privately, but I didn't. Yeah. Dane, if we can send that out to everyone, that'd be great, because I know we're looking for a lot of stuff to keep us occupied.
Yes, we are. Hey, and thank you again for your time this morning.
Thank you all for actually making this part of your day. I really appreciate it. Thank you for keeping working, and keeping singing, and keeping reaching out. It's important.
Wonderful. And everybody, don't forget our next class is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is with the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music with Quinn Patrick Ankrum doing that class. So
cool.
Please join us for that. Thank you again so much, Andrew, and we'll hopefully get another one with you soon.
Great. Thank you, singers.